ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Who else could it be for me? You man, Louie T. Welcome to Monday Night Football overtime. Ravens, Bucs, 2-4-2 teams squaring off, looking to take sole possession of first place in their respective divisions. In the case of the Ravens, they're looking to get a piece of first place. For the Bucs, they had a chance to take sole possession of first place in the NFC South. Knew it was going to be a really good game. Started off really well for the home team. One play, and it feels like a lot of times with these games, there's one play that really signals a change in the game, and it really never is the same after that play. Last night, I talked about there was a play in that game with the Jets and the Steelers where Rodgers throws the pick over the middle of the field. They were up 15-6, and that play kind of was the beginning of the end of the Jets in that game. They gave up 31 unanswered points and lost that game 37-15. Kind of similar situation tonight. We're going to talk about Lamar Jackson. Man, is he spectacular. I think this is the best football I've ever seen Lamar Jackson play. And I think I've said that at least on 3 separate occasions in his career. But I think this might be the best I've ever seen him play. And offensively, I can't speak for the defense. I don't think the defense is as good as it was a season ago. But offensively, this may be the most talented team he's ever had around him. And he's had maybe more talent at receiver in past years, but there are more defined roles amongst those receivers this year, and they're loaded at tight end. Derrick Henry gives them something they've never had in their backfield since Lamar Jackson has been in Baltimore, and that's a bona fide stud, number one difference-making back. They've kind of went running back by committee. Probably the best individual single back that they've ever had was probably Mark Ingram, and they had Ingram on the tail end of his career. They didn't have prime Mark Ingram. So this isn't Gus Edwards, right? This isn't, and I like the kid that they had last year out of East Carolina. He added a spark and an explosive, aspect to their offense, and that's what Justice Hill brings. But they've never had a guy like Derrick Henry before, and now they do. Not with Lamar in the backfield. They haven't had a running back like this probably since Jamal and Jamal Lewis. And what are you talking about? 2 decades since he wore a Ravens jersey, somewhere in that neighborhood. So this is probably the best talent he's had around him offensively. And boy, is it showing. And there's a continuity and a confidence that he's playing with. I mean, right now, how is he not the MVP of the league right now? That's a serious question. How is Lamar not the MVP again? We'll come back to that, but I thought that they got off to somewhat of a slow start tonight, did the Ravens. We'll talk about where I thought the game changed for Tampa Bay, and then this is a tough, this is an add insult to injury type of loss, or in this case, add injury to insult. But we'll get to Tampa Bay a little bit later on. But when it comes to the Ravens, thought they got off to a little bit of a slow start. They couldn't get stops defensively, it felt like. And honestly speaking, they had a lot of things go their way. Bucs had a penalty to negate a touchdown that would have made it 14-0. Instead, it was 10. They had a drop pass, and they really weren't getting stops. Then they get the interception in the end zone, and it kind of ignited something within them from a defensive standpoint, because from that point forward, they were able to kind of hold serve. Really, we didn't hear from the Bucs offense until 7-8 minutes left in the fourth quarter was when they scored the touchdown and went for 2 and got it and cut it to 34-18. So It took them a little while, but they were able to right the ship defensively. Gave up some yards on the ground, right? And I was jealous because I thought we could do that to Baltimore last week as a Commanders fan. So I was jealous to see the Bucs not afraid to go at them on the ground, because I felt like we had some good hits in the run game, and we could have stayed with the run game, and we could have been more consistent running the football. And once they were able to kind of establish dominance there, kind of slow the run game down of the Buccaneers and force them to have to beat them through the air, that's when they kind of were able to settle in defensively. And once they were able to do that, Lamar was in a rhythm. This offense was moving the ball, and it just kind of felt like they had it stuck on automatic. It went from 10-7. So this is a 10-0 game, right? So the Ravens scored 34 unanswered points in this game then, if that's the case, because they did not score another point until it was 34-10. So the Ravens scored on, man, Lamar had 5 touchdown passes tonight. Wow. They scored on what, 6 possessions before the Bucs scored again. So they scored on, I want to say 6 consecutive possessions. Let's check and see if that's in fact what took place. Feels like they scored on 6 consecutive possessions after it was 10-0. There may have been one, punt or something in there. Let's see. They had the punt on the opening possession. Tampa got after them, sacked Lamar twice, and then touchdown, touchdown, field goal, touchdown, touchdown, fumble, touchdown, which was the last Lamar Jackson drive. So, yeah, they scored on 6 consecutive possessions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This offense has been ridiculous. And if you're out there and you're watching the Cardinals and Chargers, keep me abreast of that game. I've watched not 1 second of that game. I made a statement tonight that I'm not going to stand for you putting games on ridiculous apps like ESPN Plus, which I do not have. And I'm not going to get a free trial. I'm not going to get ESPN Plus because you put a game on it. Kiss my ass. So if you have ESPN Plus and you're watching that game, I'll watch the game tomorrow when it hits the NFL Plus app, and they cut it up into a nice, neat 42-minute package for me. I will consume it then. But if you're watching it live, I would love to know what's going on. Last time I was aware and abreast, it was 14-12, and the Chargers, I think they were taking over at their own 1-yard line. I guess Arizona had downed a punt there at the 1, and that's where I left off. So keep me abreast of that game, if you will. So the Ravens offensively, Lamar is ridiculous, man. 5 touchdown passes tonight, no interceptions. There were some throws in this game where I just went, Lamar, man, you're growing as a passer, bro. Like, there's a touch throw to Charlie Kohler after the Bucs had taken the 10-0 lead. It may have even been after the Marlon Humphrey pick. And I think they were starting at their own 20 because of the touchback. And no, because his pick was when it was 10-7. So it had to be 10-0. And they must have been at their own 30. And he just lays a beautiful ball over a defender. Another defender's behind Kohler, one's in front, and he layers it perfectly over that initial defender into Charlie Kohler's hands. And I'm like, whoa, that's a feathery soft touch, bro. That is just gorgeous. For years it felt like Lamar lacked touch on some of his passes. That's feathery soft. Then he had the deep ball. One of the things I've been hypercritical of Lamar with is his deep ball. Well, he hit Bateman on a beautiful deep ball. Like, I mean, you couldn't have walked up and handed it to him any better, partner. He had a beautiful scramble out to the right where he hit, Bateman coming back to the football. That was gorgeous. Um, he was just locked in, man. Had the touchdown, both touchdowns to Mark Andrews. The 4th and 3 was especially impressive because it was in between a bunch of bodies and he was open. Don't get me wrong, but you still, again, another play where you had to kind of layer it over a couple of defenders. That was gutsy too, because at that time the Ravens were already up 17. I mean, what's just stopping you from adding another field goal and making it a 20-point lead? Now they got to score 3 touchdowns instead of, 2 touchdowns and a field goal ties the game, or, they go for 2 and then kick a field goal and beat you, whatever. They said to hell with that. We're up 17. It's still a 3-score game. A field goal is still three-score game. What difference does it make? I understand that from an analytics standpoint, which is probably what they were thinking. And then Lamar just goes out and pays it off, so it doesn't matter anyway with the touchdown pass to Mark Andrews. So he was locked in, man. And I actually think that they're doing an incredible job. The play calling is fantastic right now. They're locked in. They had a sequence where they had a touchdown negated due to penalty. It was a Lamar Jackson scramble, or it might have even been a designed run, but he got in the end zone. It was negated due to penalty. They throw a screen to Justice Hill. I think that gets negated due to a penalty. They back up again. They throw it to Hill again. That gets negated by a penalty. They move back. They at one point were all the way back at like the 37-yard line. And hopefully I'm not mashing 2 drives together. I may be mashing 2 drives together, but because that drive that I'm talking about where Lamar scored and then it was negated might have ended up being the Justice Hill screen that ended up going for the touchdown. But I think they're doing a great job of, and it's the same thing I kind of feel about my Commanders, of spreading you out, creating space. It just feels like there's so much space on the field when you're defending the Ravens. There's just so much space on the field. And it's hard to defend space when you're playing against a team with so much team speed offensively and a quarterback like Lamar Jackson and a running back like Derrick Henry. We're going to get to him in a second. And I talk about that with the Commanders. It's hard to defend a team like that when the play caller is locked in, your quarterback's playing at the level that Lamar is playing at, and your running back can hurt you. The running back out of the backfield, you got multiple backs can do different things, and you got receivers that can hurt you, and it's just so much space for you to have to defend, and you're all spread out. And then with all that space, if you don't get to Lamar and he doesn't like what he sees, he can just tuck it and run. And so it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. And they're doing a phenomenal job right now. Are the Ravens offensively? I like the play calling. I like the distribution of the football, the jet sweeps to Zay Flowers and the ways that they get him involved with the screen game and things of that nature. They sprinkle in a little Aguilar just when you forget about him. Boom, you get some Aguilar. But you're seeing Bateman really come back to the forefront. He's starting to get back to where he was prior to some of those injuries that we've seen over the last couple of years. So, that sprinkled in with the tight ends and Justice Hill out of the backfield and then King Henry. I wanted to ask you guys this. As I was watching this game, I said, I'm going to ask them this during the telecast. Is Derrick Henry a Hall of Famer right now? Is King Henry a Hall of Famer? If his career ended tonight, if tonight was his last game, is he an HOFer? I'm going to let you guys answer, and I think I'm going to answer that one a little bit later on. But he's incredible, man. He is incredible. What's crazy with the Ravens in particular is they will go pockets of the game and this man will be a non-factor, right? We will see the Ravens go a quarter and a half and Derrick Henry might have 1 touch. But then you look up and a lot of times it's the first half, right? The first half, he's a non-factor. It feels like in a lot of these ball games, except for the Bills game and the Cowboys game, right? Almost every other game this season, he's felt like a non-factor in the first half. They keep him within arm's reach, 9 carries in the first half, but 6 or 7, whatever, and none of them are super impactful. They're 3 here, 5 here, 4 here, whatever. You look up 9 carries, 8 carries, 34, 36 yards at halftime. You're like, okay, they're keeping Derrick Henry in check. Then you get to the second half, and boom, there it is, 81-yard carry in this game, right? Just like that. Then another 36-yard carry, and just like that, you look up and Derrick Henry's, God, let's see how many. At one point, he had like 156 yards in this game, and it was only on like 18 carries. And you're like, that's that Derrick Henry shit right there, right? Derrick Henry, 15 carries, 169 yards, right? 11.3 yards per tote with an 81-yarder and a 36-yarder under his belt in the game. You take away those 2 runs, it was a ho-hum modest night, but you can't take away those runs because that's the essence of Derrick Henry, is all it takes is one. And as I've said a million times, you don't catch him from behind, right? Like Troy said, the only reason McCollum caught him was because he came from the opposite side of the field and he had the angle. Otherwise, you don't catch Derrick. No guy that has been behind Derrick Henry has ever caught up to him. In the NFL, really in college, I've never seen anybody, and I've never seen anything like it because he's so massive. You don't expect a guy like that to be able to pull away, but his acceleration and his ability to keep that top speed for 60, 70, 80 yards is ridiculous. And just when you thought it was safe, like, hey, Derrick, and they literally were talking about him on the telecast, like, hey, Derrick Henry hasn't been, they played the John Harbaugh clip of him talking about, we didn't bring Derrick Henry here to give him the ball 30 times a game. He's been that guy in his career before, but he's not going to be that guy here. And they've stuck to that. That's not what they've brought him here to be. I think the most carries he's had in the game was the game against Dallas. He had like 25 carries that day. But outside of that, it's usually been like this, 15, 18, 20, 21. But just like that, he went from ho-hum modest night to damn, 120 yards. And then boom, another 36-yarder, and boom, it's 150 yards. And then when it's all said and done, it's 15 for 169. And you're like, another day at the office for King Henry, right? And he might end up leading the league in rushing. And this might be his most prolific year in the sense of he's not going to have 320 carries at the end of this season like he normally does when he was with Tennessee. He might end up with like 240 carries, 239, 230, 5 carries, and still end up with 1,500 yards, which will be insane. What is he even averaging on the season? I don't know if I can get that information right now or not. Let's see. Derrick Henry. Let's get his stats. He's averaging 6 yards a pop this year. 119 carries, 704 yards. So if you double that, because we're almost at the midpoint of the season, let's just slightly double that, right? So let's add another 20 carries, we'll say, and we'll double this because we're 7 games in. Let's see, you add one more game, then you double it. That's 8. So we'd have to let's add 36 to the total now, right? 36 plus 119 is 155, right? 155. So you add another 120 to that. That's 269. So you take away 1 because it's 119. 269 carries, and he'd be over 1,700 yards on 269 carries. That's what he's kind of on pace for right now. Averaging 6 yards a pop. This dude is insane, man. I mean, it's just incredible. And what he's doing right now and how he was able to last as long as he did on the market, I think teams felt like, oh, there's not a lot of tread left on the tires. Bullshit. And I know you heard Troy throw some shade, right? And all I could do was laugh because he said, man, there were some teams this offseason that really could have used Derrick Henry. And I knew what he was talking about. I knew what he was alluding to. And then, Joe Buck couldn't just let it be shade. He was like, no, I got to direct this shade at the individual team that you're speaking of. Because Troy tried to talk in generalities, right? Because he didn't want to single out the Cowboys. Because, Troy's a homer. At the end of the day, he's not going to shit on the Cowboys if he doesn't have to. But he took a veiled shot at them, obviously. But Joe was like, nah, we're not gonna let that slide. Hey, there was a specific team, and Derek resides in Dallas, Texas, that could have used Derrick Henry this year. I think that might be the team you might be referring to, one of those teams. And Troy didn't say anything because still got to make sure he's in the good graces of good old Jerry, right? Don't want to piss him off. But I can't believe the Cowboys fumbled that opportunity. Guys sitting right in your backyard and you blow the whole opportunity. And no one wants to hear about, well, you didn't have any money. You could have gone to a couple veterans and cleared enough cap space to make it happen. And the fact that this guy ended up in Baltimore on a Super Bowl caliber team that went to the AFC Championship a season ago as the number 1 seed and lost by a touchdown, and you let them get one of the best running backs still in the NFL is incredible to me. It is incredible. And he's drastically changed this offense because, again, they've never had a guy like this before. It's not all on Lamar anymore. Even though Lamar is still shouldering a huge part of the burden, he doesn't have to carry the load offensively by himself anymore. He's got Derrick Henry. And it feels like every game there's one carry or so where he's just going to explode for a plus, 30 run. And it feels inevitable almost every week now. And, they're the Bucs hanging tough, holding him down, and then bam, just like that. And that's demoralizing. It really is. And so, let's see. Let's take a quick look at his numbers this year. 169. He had 24 carries against Washington for 132. Coincidentally, that was the least most in terms of yards per carry that he had since week 2 against the Vegas Raiders. And they were still trying to figure out what Derrick Henry was for them, where he kind of fit in at that point. 15 for 92 against Cincinnati at the big run in overtime there, obviously. Obviously 224 carries, 199 yards versus Buffalo. 25 carries, 151 against Dallas. Then, early in the season, 18 for 84 against Vegas and 13 for 46 against Kansas City. They were still figuring out, where does Derrick Henry fit into this equation? They got it now, though. They figured it out now. And boy, is he killing it. Of the 7 games this season, he's rushed for over 100 in 4 of them and 130 in all 4 of those games that are over 100. It's been 130 or more. So he's been wicked for this Ravens offense, and it's taken it to another level. You already got to deal with Zay Flowers and Bateman and Andrews and Isaiah Likely. Now you got to deal with Derrick Henry. It feels unfair at times. And then, of course, I'd even mention the guy pulling the strings and the guy that's the maestro of all of this, Lamar Jackson. It's a tough offense to deal with right now. And they're doing a tremendous job of getting it done. And I have been so impressed with what they've done this year offensively and how they've grown under Todd Monken. This is again, I'm looking at this Ravens offense and this team, and I'm like, they might be the cream of the crop in the AFC. That's what it kind of feels like right now. But we'll see what happens. You get to the Bucs side of things. Marlon Humphrey, let me say this before we go. Marlon Humphrey with the 2 interceptions, big play. He's been big for them all year. Both of their corners went down tonight. Stevens went down, and I don't know if he returned. It didn't feel like he returned in the game when he, had the tackle on Mike Evans. He stayed down, and I don't think he returned. And then obviously Humphrey got injured, and he didn't return with the knee injury. And he had 2 picks at that time, and he's made some big plays for them. Big interception against Cincinnati, big interception tonight. And so you're hoping, and the thing that sucks about a game like tonight is when you play on Monday, you don't have the full week at your disposal to recover and get back out there. Just a quick turnaround, especially when you're on the road, as the Ravens are in this game or were in this game. And now you got to try to figure it out and get back to business. You got the Browns. That's the good thing. That's the good news. It's Cleveland. They stink. The bad news is you came out of this game with a few nicks, bumps, and bruises. But, big win for the Ravens against a quality opponent. And they get it done 41-31. Lots of points scored in this game. Now, you transition to the Bucs side of things. And, this was a rough one if you're a Bucs fan, because not only did you lose the game, Mike Evans is probably going to be out. That looked like a real hamstring, not like, oh man, I got a little tight on me. That looked like, man, I completely pulled my hamstring and I'm out for a month. That looks like a trip to the IR. And then you turn around and with the game over already, you're down 10, you're fighting, but this game's over. You throw a meaningless pass to Chris Godwin and he's tackled by Roquan Smith, but Roquan's weight falls on his knee, and Chris Godwin's already had, an ACL before. And so you hate to see it. And it was so ironic because right before the play, Troy and Joe were like, I get that you want to compete to the end, but what is Tampa doing here? Like, this game's over. At this point, you just want to get out of here healthy. You already lost Mike Evans, and literally the next play, Godwin goes down and he's done for the season. I mean, I think that's pretty apparent to anybody that watched. And we didn't even see the play, like the replay. You'd have to go back and rewind it because ESPN's like, yeah, that shit was nasty. We're not even going to show it again, right? So clearly it was gruesome in nature. And he's probably done for the season. And so this loss came at a massive cost if you are a Buccaneers fan. But let's just go back to the beginning of this game. What a start, right? You go out, you score a touchdown on the opening drive. It's 4 straight games after starting the season off and having this crazy streak of, I think it was like maybe 10, 11 games straight where you didn't score a touchdown on your opening drive. And it was the longest streak by any team in the league. Now you've scored in 4 consecutive games to start on offense, and you were red hot to start. You get it. The defense gives a little, but then gets 2 consecutive sacks on Lamar to kill their opening drive, and you move it right down the field, and you have a touchdown negated due to a penalty where Baker throws a strike in the end zone, and so you have to settle for a field goal. That hurt, but you were fine still, because the Ravens then got the football, moved it down the field, scored a touchdown, made it 10-7, and you went right back down the field. And Bake drops a dime into Mike Evans, and he dropped it. And I got a buddy that's a Buccaneers fan, and this is going to be a unpopular opinion amongst Bucs fans, because I get on him about this all the time, but he's like, I can't stand Mike Evans. I want him gone. And he's wanted Mike Evans gone for at least the last 3 years. And I'm like, bro, you tripping. Like, Mike's a Buck legend. He deserves to retire a Buck. Yeah, there's drops every now and again, but he makes a lot more plays than he does drop the football. But every now and again, if you're a Buccaneers fan, Mike Evans is just like Chris Godwin. They're good for a drop or two, right? And that was a flat out drop. Before the hamstring tightened up on him, that he had already dropped the ball. He didn't start clutching at that hammy until Stevens fell on his ankle, and pulled his leg down. He already had dropped the football. And he just didn't catch it, because I think if he would have caught it initially, he would have hung on to it, and then he would have, fell down. It would have been a touchdown, and then, he would have been, clutching at his leg, or his hamstring. But he'd already dropped that football. Baker couldn't have thrown that anymore perfectly. And from that point on, the game changed, because obviously you go down and Bake ends up throwing. And I don't know what Bake was thinking on that pick, because if you look at that play, Bucky Irving is standing right at the goal line for a touchdown. I'm like, just throw it to him, dude. Just throw it to him. And he turns it down, works all the way back across the other side of the field, spots the receiver. And I want to say it might have been McMillan, but it could have also been Sterling Shepard. But it was somebody in that back corner of the end zone that he thought was wide open. And you got to credit Marlon Humphrey for coming off the tight end who he was on. He was checking Cade Otton, and he kind of fell underneath that route. And Bake never saw him, but you had to throw right in front of you. You're going to throw that football, had to travel a long way to get to that back corner of the end zone. You got to throw right in front of you for the touchdown. And I just don't know why he turned it down. But once he threw that interception, that game changed infinitely, expeditiously. And the Bucs were never the same. They did not score another point till the fourth quarter. Right? I mean, they were not the same team offensively. Obviously, Evans leaving the game hurts you massively. And it felt like they never really recovered from that. They never really got into an offensive rhythm. Then you miss a field goal. It was 55 yards, but this dude had been almost automatic for you, and Chase McLaughlin. And Chase McLaughlin, and he misses the field goal, hits the upright, and at that point you felt like, okay, yeah, this thing is starting to snowball. Bake throws a second interception, and it just unravels, and then the defense all of a sudden can't get a stop to save their life. I told you 6 consecutive possessions of scores for the Ravens, and it got away from you, right? Despite having a hell of a start, it got away from you. And again, you have to credit the God damn it, the Cardinals won the game. I had a lousy week this week, and one of the losses, I'll talk about it when we do our kickback. Golly, I just, a lot of field goals at the end kicked my ass this week. My goodness, sucks ass. Bucs ran for 125 yards, 4.2 yards a pop. Like Cade Otton, 100 yards receiving. I thought they did a really good job of throwing the ball to the backside of the backfield. I think that's something that the Ravens struggle with a little bit. Like you can catch them, especially early, catch them with back out of the backfield. But just you couldn't sustain drives. Bake is one of those dudes that wants to hold on to it. It felt like he got sacked a number of times. How many times was Bake sacked tonight? Felt like he was sacked a number of times tonight. Only 3 times. Felt like it was like more like 5. But a lot of penalties too. Woo, a lot of penalties in this game. But when it's all said and done, big picture for the Bucs, we're gonna really find out what they're made of here, because let's look at their next few games here. Obviously, you got the game against Atlanta, and it couldn't come at a worse time for you. Quick turnaround after a Monday night. Now you gotta, at least you're at home and you don't have to travel, but you're not gonna have Mike Evans, you're not gonna have Chris Godwin, and you're gonna have to figure it out here. Boy, things go from bad to worse. It's the Falcons, then it's at home for the Falcons, on the road against Kansas City on a Monday night. Then you're home for the 49ers, and then you catch a little bit of a break here. And if you can somehow survive through that 3-game stretch there, which I don't see it happening without Godwin and Evans, but if you can somehow survive that 3-game stretch, you get the Giants, the Panthers, and the Raiders in successive weeks. You'll have a shot to turn your season around if it goes south, but you need to win one of those 3 games. It doesn't matter which one. You'd prefer it to be against Atlanta. That way you could stay in that race with them and split the season series. But you just got to win one of those games. It's highly unlikely that you're going to beat the Chiefs with your current state right now with the injuries that you've suffered. And you might be able to beat the 49ers, and we don't really know what the 49ers are at this point with their injury situation and how they're playing ball. But a lot of people think that there's a chance Christian McCaffrey could be back by the time they come off of their bye. So if that is in fact the case, he'll be back by the time you play them. So that might not work in your favor either. But this is a tough road the next 3 weeks. And if you can somehow navigate it, that'll get you to your bye after the 49ers game. You come off that bye, and you'd like to think that Mike Evans should be back because I think he's going to be on IR after this one. If that's my guess. They may not put him on IR, but after that, you come off that bye, and you could get hot, right? But if you lose the next 3, you're 4-6. You're 4-6. That's why that loss to Atlanta on Thursday Night Football hurt so much, because that game was there for the taking. You should have won that game, and you didn't. And now it's put you in this bind. Now these injuries, which you did not foresee happening, have occurred, and it's put you in such a tough spot. You lose the next 3, you're 4-6. Then you could, theoretically speaking, win the next 3 after that. You're 7-6, but you're fighting for your life. And who knows what Atlanta's going to be doing, concurrently with at that same time. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. Tell you that much. But what a tough loss, because it wasn't just the loss itself. It was what transpired during the course of this loss, especially the Godwin one at the end. That was so avoidable. And I'm not one of those guys that beats coaches up or is hypercritical of a coach playing ball, right? There's certain instances where I'm like, what are you doing here, guy? In that particular instance, crazy things have happened at the end of ball games. You already recovered one onside kick. The second one wasn't a bad kick either. So you're thinking to yourself, maybe if we can just get in the field goal range. First of all, you messed up, and I was so disappointed. And this is where you can get on Todd Bowles, because this was his fault. They should not have gone for 2. Now, I will say this. They did not know they were going to recover the onside kick, but you have to play the numbers game. Going for 2 when you were down 24, or excuse me, 23, because you had gone for 2 already, you had gotten it and cut it to 16, and the Ravens came right back down the field, scored a touchdown, pushed it back out to 23 at 41-18. You already did what you needed to do to put yourself in a position to be down 2 scores. You did not need to go for 2 after that touchdown to make it 41-24. You should have kicked the extra point. That would have kept it at 16. And now you would have had a legitimate shot after recovering that onside kick. You could have gone down, and you ultimately did go down and score a touchdown. Then you could have gone for 2, and it would have cut it to 8 if you had gotten it. And you would have, now they wouldn't have been able to sit Lamar Jackson down. They would not have been able to put, their backups in and kind of play out the string. Now they would have had to get a first down, or else you get the ball back and you got a chance to tie this, and this thing could have had a chance to be wild. But you went for 2 for what? For what? The difference between 17 and 16 is massive, because at 17, you're dead. At 16, you still have a shot. Why are you going for 2? What psychological sense does that make? So you get the 2-point conversion, great. You still need another one, and you're still down 15. But not getting it means the game's over. The pros and cons, the cons far outweigh the pros of going for 2 right there, right? One is, hey, we're still down 2 touchdowns. Now we only need 1 2-point conversion. Great. The other one is, the game's over if you don't get it. You can't do that. Mathematically, you have to give yourself a chance, and kicking the extra point would have given you a chance. You went for 2, you didn't get it, and now the game's over. You're down 17, and then you got the onside kick, and then you score a touchdown, but now you're still down 10 because you went for 2 when you didn't need to. So that's something where you go, what were you thinking? You got to give your team the best shot, and you didn't give them a chance. But so at the end, I was like, bro, it's over. You blew it when you went for 2 and didn't get it. Just it's over. You're down 10. Just call it a night. Run the ball, right? Hand it off, and let's get them next week. And instead, you lose Chris Godwin for the season, with 43 seconds left in a game that was already decided. And again, I'll never fault a coach for trying to play to the bitter end. It is what it is, but that sucks, man. That sucks because that was totally avoidable right there. Unnecessary. So let's get to a quick word from one of our sponsors. Of course, we go inside the odds, brought to you by BetUS, and then we'll come back on the other side of that and get to the comment section and what you guys want to talk about.
Inside the odds.
So it's that time, man. A lot of sports going on right now. Major League Baseball World Series is about to take place on Friday. You've got college basketball starting up here in a couple of weeks. NBA starts tomorrow night. NFL is in full swing. So is college football. National Hockey League is kicking up and it's going. And so you got a lot of opportunities to make some money now. I will encourage you to bet with BetUS, but I'm also going to make sure that I tell you, bet responsibly. Only bet what you can afford to lose. A lot of people out there, making some questionable decisions, but if you've got some surplus, you've got a little extra change on the side, BetUS is where you need to be. And if you're not already betting with BetUS, I got a deal for you. All right. First and foremost, they got the fastest payouts in the industry. Also, you can get up to 10% back on your net losses twice a year. Again, not many books are out there doing that. And here's the big kicker. If you're not betting with BetUS, go ahead, give them a shot. 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit of up to $2,000. And then the next two deposits, 125% sign-up bonus when you use the promo code YouTube150. So tonight, BetUS provided us with this line on the game. Ravens were 3.5-point favorites. Obviously, they covered the spread. You heard Joe Buck at the end of this game talking about Al Michaels, who always brings up the betting line and the point spread for the degenerates. He never actually says it, but we all know what he's referring to. He used to do this when betting was not legalized in the U.S. In most places, but he always brings up the betting line. And he said, look, Joe Buck was like, look, there are a lot of people interested in what Tampa Bay does with this final drive because, as you can see, the line was 3.5. They scored a touchdown. They cut it to 3. A lot of people are going to be upset out there, but cooler heads prevailed. Bucs lost by 10, and thus the Ravens covered the spread. Not, the over-under total was 50. Obviously, they murdered that with 72 points combined between the two teams. So lots of points scored. And I didn't feel like it was going to get that high at one point, but the Bucs kind of turned it up there late and were able to score some points. But this is what I'm more interested in here. Looking at these two divisions, this was obviously prior to tonight's game, but this was the lines for both of these two respective divisions and who would win the division. The Ravens right now are I won't call them the overwhelming favorite, but they're the clear odds-on favorite right now. They're the only team in the minuses here, the minus 250, whereas the Steelers are in second at plus 325. So, and both of those teams are at 5-2, but clearly we can see a difference between the two teams. One has MVP, two-time MVP Lamar Jackson, and are absolutely rolling on offense and are 5-2 and have won 5 straight games in the Baltimore Ravens. The other are the Steelers, who, won last night and it looked good, but I'm still not convinced. And they're still trying to, kind of figure out their quarterback situation. Looks like they're going to roll with Russell Wilson after what he was able to do last night. So interesting. And in Cincinnati, for all their struggles, they're at plus 750. It's not like they're at plus 1,500 or plus 2,000. Like, they're still hanging around, right? So that's interesting that they haven't kind of completely removed Cincinnati from the discussion. They're still a very dangerous team. Meanwhile, in the NFC South, again, all of these odds are brought to you by BetUS. You got the Panthers, obviously, at plus 15,000. They're not winning a damn thing. Saints started off like gangbusters. Man, whoa. What a difference a month and a half makes. My goodness. They're at plus 2,200 and they're completely going in the wrong direction. And then you got the Bucs and the Falcons at minus 105, both of them. Both tied at 4-3. But I think with the injuries to both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, you're going to see this thing kind of swing in Atlanta's favor significantly. I wouldn't be shocked if the Bucs go from minus 105 after this loss and the loss of those two receivers, specifically Godwin and that the long-term health for him. I wouldn't be surprised if that thing doesn't switch over to like plus 300 after the happenings of tonight. But it feels like it's Atlanta's division to lose at this point. But because there's a two-team race out there, the Saints stink and the Panthers stink. It's just those two. And now with the Bucs having all of those injuries tonight, man, it feels like their season was deflated tonight. But next week's going to tell the story. They could go to Atlanta, or have Atlanta come to Tampa and somehow find a way to beat them and stay right in the midst of that race. And because really, like I said, their next three, find a way to win one, and you can be 5-5 by the time Mike Evans comes back after the bye week, and then you could turn it back up when he comes back and get to 8-5 with that 3-game stretch of Giants and Raiders. And, I think there was one more lousy team in there, maybe the Panthers, someone like that. You can find a way to get to 8 wins and be 8-5 and be right back in the mix. Because they're not great, as we saw yesterday, and they can't win at home. And they got a lot of road games coming up here after playing 5 out of their first 7 at home. They're going to be on the road here a ton. And I'm not convinced that they're going to run away with this division. If you're Tampa, you just got to find a way to win one. Probably not going to beat the Chiefs. Probably not going to beat the 49ers. Probably going to have to try and beat the Falcons. So not going to be easy, but it's not impossible either. So it's going to be interesting to see if those odds sort of shift on the money line for that division after the result of tonight, specifically with those injuries that the Bucs have incurred. So let's get back to the comment section and let's see what you guys have to say. And we kick the night off with my guy, Ree. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ree writes, we will always be a 500-ish team with Bowles, a better head coach, and we're a true contender. We are a great head coach away from being a top team. With Bowles, we will be stuck at slightly above 500. He does all the little things wrong. And this, I don't like to beat up on Todd Bowles, but tonight was a great example of what you're talking about. The going for 2 in that situation, down 17 with about 4 minutes to go in the game, wrong decision. Absolutely the wrong decision. You needed to go for 2 when you were down 25. You went for 2, you were down 26 because it was 34-16. You were down 18, excuse me. So you needed to go for 2 and you got it, and you cut it to 18 at 34 to 18. And now you were back where you needed to be, right? 2-score game. They went down and scored and made it 41-18. And you went back down and scored and made it 41-25 or 41-23, 24, excuse me. And you should have kicked the extra point to make it 25. And then you would have been down 16. Instead, you went for 2. You didn't get it. Put you down 17, and now the game's over, right? That's the little thing that you're talking about. Like you can't make that mistake. Mathematically, you're eliminated from this game with 4 minutes to go if you don't get the 2-point conversion. So what is the upside of doing that? There is none, right? Yeah, you get it. Cool. You still need another 2-point conversion. But again, the risk outweighs the reward, because if you don't get it, the game's over. Now you need 3 scores, no matter what you do, You need 3 scores, and there's only 4 minutes and some change left in this game. So the play was to kick the extra point, cut it back to 16. Then you kicked the onside kick. You recovered that. You went down and you scored with 1:57 remaining in the game, and you still had timeouts. You could have gone for 2 then, and if you got it, man, we got ourselves a ball game. And we've seen the Ravens do this before against Dallas, where they didn't recover a lot. The only 2 onside kick recoveries have both happened against Baltimore, and they've allowed teams that they were blowing out to come back and make it a close game. And you had a chance to do the same thing, and you blew it. And that's what you're talking about with Todd Bowles. It's the little things. You can't fudge that. You can't F that up. And he did. Ree, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. My guy, Ree, writes, I'll always respect Todd because he's a fantastic defensive coordinator and he helped us win a ring, but he's a mediocre head coach. Worst part is if we squeak into the playoffs, he'll be back again. And, that sucks that you feel that way about him, but you're probably right. I've been there with a mediocre coach before. And here's the thing. Because he's such a brilliant defensive mind, you're going to be in ball games because defensively, he's going to scheme it up. And if the team you're playing against isn't great on offense, he's going to do a good job of holding them down and making them, make mistakes and give you a shot. But even the defense hasn't been great this year. You gave up 500 yards passing to the Falcons. You gave up 41 tonight. You've had games this season where you were really good, but then the Denver game, I know you only gave up like 23 points in that game, but they moved the ball with great effectiveness and efficiency. And that's a rookie team, a rookie quarterback that was winless at the time, which nobody saw them coming into Tampa. You were undefeated at that time and winning that game. But ultimately, I don't think you're going to make the playoffs now. It's a hell of a trek after the injuries that you incurred tonight. You might get your wish, he might get canned. And it's hard for me to envision being that you guys made the playoffs, and it's easy to just attribute the season going in the wrong direction to the injuries that you sustained in this game. If the Bucs season goes sideways after tonight, everyone will come back and say, hey, you know what? This was a good football team. They were playing good ball, and they were right in the mix, in the thick of things. And then we had all those injuries, and that's what derailed the season. And you could make that case for him coming back next year. I'm going to tell you this. I like the Cohen guy as the offensive coordinator. I like him a lot. And I've seen you guys do this before. I've seen this movie before where you fire the head coach to hire the offensive coordinator. Didn't you do that with Dirk Cutter? I swear you did that with him. And it did not work out for you. So just be careful. You've been down this road before, right? But you might be right about Todd. You might be right about Todd. Ree, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ree writes, I wish you still had the phone lines available because I'd be going in. I bet you would. You would definitely be going in tonight for sure. Ree says, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Ree writes, best you've ever seen Lamar play. This was the easiest game he's ever played. Shit was a bye week. Had guys running wide open. He barely had to try. But you still got to make the throws. And like I said, there was some beautifully, but it's just not this. I didn't say this was the best game I've ever seen him play. That's not what I said. I said this might be the best I've ever seen him play. When I'm talking about just in general, I watched him cook my team last week, and it was a lot of the same shit you're complaining about. Like guys were open, but that's a part of the scheme, right? That's a part of what they're doing offensively. It's a part of the offense and the weapons that they have. It's a part of having to defend Derrick Henry. There's a lot that goes into what the Ravens are doing right now. But again, cannot dismiss the fact that Lamar is a big part of the success that they're having. But make no mistake about it. I'm not talking about this game in particular was the best game. I didn't say that. I said this might be the best I've ever seen Lamar play. And I'm just talking about in general. He's throwing the football really well. I thought he threw it well against Kansas City in week 1, right? I thought he was really good against Dallas, and he didn't throw it a bunch in that game. They ran it a ton. He used his legs more in that game, but the throws that he did make, right? Same thing with the Buffalo game. I thought he threw it well in that game, right? He had the fumble in that game, but he threw the football well, and thought he was excellent against my Commanders last week throwing the football. He made every play in that game. We could not get off the field on third downs. And again, a lot of the receivers were wide open, and you got to give Todd Monken some credit. Like, he's scheming it up. He's creating a ton of space. And then tonight, I thought there were so many beautiful throws. I talked about the throw to Charlie Kohler, the touchdown pass to Rashad Bateman. I've seen Lamar miss those deep balls with guys behind the defense by 2-3 steps, and he missed. And he didn't miss. And that's huge, right? I thought Lamar was fantastic, and he's been fantastic again. And I don't know if you've seen this, but I think Lamar now has taken the odds on favorite lead in the MVP race this season. So, yeah, he's playing at a super high level. And I think the biggest thing that I'm noticing is he looks so much more comfortable and accurate from the pocket. And if that continues, coupled with Derrick Henry, this could be the year. You never know. This could finally be the year. But that loss to Kansas City, and we'll see what the Chiefs ultimately do, could be the difference between them having to go to Arrowhead or them being at M&T Bank. And that could be the difference between Kansas City going to the Super Bowl for the 19th year in a row, or Baltimore finally breaking through and getting to the Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson. So, again, we're very far away from that. But it wasn't just your team. He's playing well. Reed, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Reed writes, fake ass tough guys. This whole team, fake tough guys. BA made us tough guys. We need a guy like him. Top Bowles is a bitch and plays bitch football. I don't think that he's a bitch. I don't think he plays bitch football. BA held people accountable. That was his thing. Tom Brady came there, and I think that's a big part of the reason why BA wasn't the coach the next year, is because Brady said either he goes or I go. You want a chance to repeat? You want me to stick around? He needs to retire, because BA held his feet to the fire. He wasn't intimidated by Tom Brady's illustrious past. He was like, yo, you effed up today. You weren't good today. We lost this game because you didn't play well. And I don't think Brady took too kindly to being, publicly criticized like that. Belichick used to do it all the time, but he would do it behind closed doors. He would not do it publicly. And BA wasn't bashful. And so it worked, but it only worked for a year. So, Uncle Bruce, the cool cat with the hat to match, there aren't a lot of those dudes left. He was one of the last of a dying breed. There aren't many of those old school coaches. A lot of the young coaches, like if you're gonna hire somebody, I would imagine, with the Glazers and how they do business, they're not gonna really go outside the organization. You're probably gonna end up hiring Grant Cohen, right? Or whatever his name is. I don't want to call him. I don't want to guess what his first name is, because I probably just messed it up. I don't even know where I got Grant Cohen from, but I know that's somebody's name. Okay, I don't know if it's his name, but somebody's name is Grant Cohen. So Cohen could end up being your next head coach. That's what it feels like. That's the kind of move that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers make. Generally you guys promote from within. So I don't know who your next head coach might be. I don't know if they're going to fire Todd Bowles. You guys were in the divisional round just a season ago, and we're playing good football up until tonight. So I don't know if anything's going to get done, Ree. You might have to take one more year of this before something actually takes place. LT, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, what's the tune going to be when Philly beats Washington 2-0? Look, man, we don't play y'all for another month. We're not going to have this discussion, LT. All right. As much as I would love to entertain your foolishness tonight, I'm not gonna do it because we'll play y'all for a month. We don't play y'all till it's week 8. We don't play y'all till week 11, man. I got other problems, other teams between now and then before we get to y'all. We got business to attend to. You worry about the Bengals, man. You worry about finding a way to see if you can't win against a quality opponent, because you haven't seen a quality opponent since Tampa Bay, and we saw what happened when you played them. So you keep saying we haven't beaten anybody, we ain't played nobody. We played a lot of common opponents. Here's another common opponent. Do what we did then, or do it even better than we did it. Yeah, we scored 38, but we gave up 33. Go shut them down, hold them to 13 points. You scored 27 and look dominant doing it, and then we can have a discussion. But I'm not entertaining your foolishness, man. I said what I said, and I meant what I said. You don't like it? Deal with it. I'm the manager. Let's get to the comment section real quick. And see what y'all talking about. John Wynn. Oh, if you're out there, let me say this real quick, because not everybody is hip to the game. If you're out there, you want your comment read, super chats are the way to get that done. It's the best and most efficient way to get that done. So if time permits, though, and you want your comment read on the air, use the hashtag LouieTLive, and we'll get to as many comments as we can. So we start off with John Wynn, who writes, Browns fans recently chanted Watson by saying you deserve it. I didn't hear that. Maybe they did chant that, but I know there were some fans booing, right, that he got hurt, which I saw Myles Garrett was pretty passionate, and Jameis Winston also had something to say. I mean, that's a nasty scene. You got a lot of passionate fans who were super disappointed by the quality of play that they gotten from Watson. And they were really upset. And it's never okay to cheer or boo a guy, cheer for that guy getting hurt or boo that guy as he's getting carted off the field. You got in that particular situation, I don't care how poorly he's played and how frustrated you are with him. Don't show your ass, act with class in that situation. The man was boo-hooing. Eyes were bloodshot red, filled with tears. He knows his season is over, and, who knows what his career looks like. Now this is his second ACL probably. I think this one might have been an Achilles that he blew out. Like, show some respect. All right? Like, that was crazy. The Booty Creek Cheek Freak says, seeing what the Ravens are doing against the Bucs makes me feel even better about our team. Again, there are no moral victories. The only thing I took from this game was how disappointed I was that we didn't run it more, because I thought we could have run it more. And the Bucs had success running the ball. I'll never subscribe to, let's not run it at all, that team. Unless that team is literally a brick wall against the run. And there's no reason to even try. And it's just rare in the league that exists anymore. We create a ton of space on the field. There were a lot of good hits in the run game. I just didn't think we needed to give up on it. That was the biggest takeaway. Like, we could have run the ball, man. I'm not buying that. Let's see. Oh, I said they haven't had a really good running back since Jamal. Ray Rice was good. I take that back. Ray Rice was good. He was a really good running back. Completely. It's easy to forget about him. His career wasn't done. He ended his own career with his situation. I forgot all about Ray Rice. He was really good. Let's see. I see some people talking about the question I asked. We'll get into that a little bit later. Metaphor says, sorry, just got here, but Bowles is a dick. Pushing what was lost and gets Godwin after the year. They're screwed now. Yeah, again, I don't like to attack coaches. He's probably going to catch a lot of flack for it, but Again, in this league, you never know what could happen. They had already recovered one onside kick. And, a corner slips and falls. Guy runs free down the sideline. You hit a touchdown. Now you're down 3. You kick another onside kick. You recover it somehow. And all you need is a field goal, right? Strange things. I've seen crazy things happen before. It probably wasn't going to happen. But he wasn't willing to give up because he had already seen them recover an onside kick. And the second onside kick was a very good one as well, right? So in his mind, why the hell not? He wasn't ready to give up, but it just sucks because it was unnecessary. Let's see. Comasel Brown writes, I'm kicking myself for not keeping it simple. I know you don't go against the Chiefs or Ravens no matter what. And if you do not both the same weekend, shaking my head. I mean, you try. You look, at the end of the day, you got to go with your gut and what you believe. And so there's that. But you're right. I'm probably not going to pick against the Chiefs until they lose. Like, it just doesn't feel they're going to lose at some point. But till it happens, is like it ain't happening. You got to pick that week carefully. It wasn't going to be the 49ers. Reese says Jason Light has ties to Bill Belichick. Just saying. Okay, I'll keep that in mind because Bill is getting into coaching again. He's not done. He's going to coach one more time because he wants that Don Shula record. And so he's going to get an opportunity to get it somewhere. The question is where. All right, so we're going to answer. That was the last hashtag I had. So we're going to answer this question, and then we'll get out of here. So I asked you guys about Derrick Henry and whether he was a Hall of Famer earlier, if his career ended right now, which it's not, and he's going to compile more stats. So right now he's got 98 career touchdowns. He's going to hit the century mark. That puts you in a different stratosphere when you have 100 touchdowns in your NFL career. So that's another milestone that he's going to hit here shortly. He's over 10,000 yards. So that's another milestone that he's already hit. He's hitting every marker that you need to hit. He's rushed for 2,000 yards in a season. There are only, 7 running backs to ever do that in NFL history. That's a prestigious group. I'm going to tell you that he is a Hall of Famer right now. And to me, it is no question about it. He was one of the most dominant players of his era. When you think about running backs from 16 was his rookie season, 2016. Mariota got there in 15, and then he got there the next year in 16, I believe. If we just look at 2016 to present day, nobody's been better at the running back position. We could talk about guys having, individual seasons. McCaffrey had a couple of seasons, and, we've had guys have seasons. But if we're talking about model of consistency, a guy that just year in, year out does it, it's Derrick Henry. And a lot of the stats that they showed tonight, most since 2016, which is his rookie season, if I'm not mistaken, most 50-plus yard runs, most since 2016, most 100-yard games, most since 2016. And a lot of that too is how many backs have the longevity that he's had. McCaffrey can't stay healthy 2 years in a row, it feels like. He's one of the guys that we look at and say, man, he's so good, but he can't stay healthy. It's a physically demanding position, and yet every year this dude plays 16, 17 games at a position that is a war of attrition. Guys can't stay healthy on a weekly basis. He does it. And every year you look up, another 1,000-yard season. And I get it. It's not hard to rush for 1,000 yards. It wasn't hard to rush for 1,000 yards in a 16-game season. They've pushed it to 17. And eventually it's going to go to 18. I get it. 1,000 yards isn't what it used to be. But it's still a mile marker. And he still hits it every year. And he's not just hitting it. I think the new 1,000 is 1,200. He hits 1,200 almost every year. Let me look at his numbers. Feels like he hits 1,200 every year. See. So his first 2 years weren't great in Tennessee. Then 1,059 in 2018, 1,540 in 2019. That was on 303 carries. 378 carries, 2,027 yards, 17 touchdowns in 2020. 2019, I remember, or 2021, I remember that season he was dealing with injuries, 219 carries, only 937 yards. So that's the last time he hasn't rushed for 1,000 yards. 2022, 349 carries, 1,538 yards, 13 touchdowns. 2023, which was last year, 280 carries, 1,167 yards, 12 touchdowns. And that's another thing that's been eye-popping for him is the amount of touchdowns. He hasn't had less than 10 touchdowns since 2018. All right. 2018, he had 12. 2017, his first 2 seasons in the league, he had 5 touchdowns each year. Then 2018, 12. 2019, 16. 2020, 17. 2021, 10. And that's the season he was injured in, and he still had 10. 2022, 13. 2023, 12. He's already got 8 this year, and we're not even halfway through the season. He'll probably end up pushing for 20 this year. If he keeps on the pace that he's currently on, he'll be knocking on the door of 20 touchdowns this year. Probably end up with like 17 or 18 when it's all said and done. So this guy's ridiculous. This guy's ridiculous. I think he's a Hall of Famer right now. And his career is not done. And when it's all said and done, there's no doubt he's a Hall of Fame football player. I was hearing people talk about like guys like Shady McCoy, and they were like, yeah, Shady's a Hall of Famer. I'm like, Shady McCoy is a Hall of Fame player? I got to go look at his number. Like, again, I don't know my criteria, but like, he's not a Hall of Fame player. Shady was nasty, but I mean, let me see where his career numbers are. I bet he doesn't have 100 touchdowns in his career. Now, the big difference with Shady is he was a pass catching back too. So you have to take that into consideration as well. But I don't know, man. I don't see it. Let's see. Well, he's got 11,000 rushing yards. And then another 3,000 receiving yards, almost 4,000 receiving yards. So almost 15,000. I mean, I think it's 15,000 on the nose because he got 11,102 and then 3,898. So if I'm doing the math correctly, that's 15,000 on the head of total all-purpose yards. I don't think he ever returned kicks or anything like that. So just between receiving and rushing, I think he got 15,000 yards total. That's a lot of damn yards. Now, on the touchdown front, 73 rushing touchdowns. And then he's got another 16. So that's 89. So he didn't hit 100 total touchdowns. That's a lot of yards, though, man. It's a lot of yards and a lot of seasons. He played 11 seasons in the league. Now, the back end of his career won't shit because he really won't get no run. But that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 yard seasons. The most he ever had was 1,607 yards in 2013. I don't know if this is a Hall of Fame career. I'd have to look at some other guys. It's a good career. Don't get me wrong. I just don't. Again, the Hall of Fame ain't the really good of fame. It's the Hall of Fame, like the best of the best, the elite, the best that the sport had to offer. I don't know, man. Derrick Henry is that. And he'll need another 2 seasons to surpass a guy like Shady McCoy from a yardage standpoint. Derrick Henry. I wonder. I'm actually curious now because Derrick Henry clearly doesn't have as many receiving yards in his career as Shady McCoy does. So I do want to look that up and see because I think he's going to pass Shady McCoy from a rushing yardage standpoint. He's already passed him in career touchdowns, and he's going to eclipse 100 touchdowns in his career, which will put him in a different stratosphere. Again, and he's rushed for 2,000 yards in a single season. So again, this is crazy. ESPN projects that Derrick Henry, if the number of carries and yards continues throughout the rest of the season, 337 carries, 1,995 yards and 23 touchdowns is what he's projected to have if he stays on the current pace that he's on right now. I don't see him getting 337 carries. But if he does and he stays on his current pace, that's insane, right? Anyway, let's go to his career. So he's only got 1,500 yards. That's more yards than I thought he had receiving, to be honest with you. So he's almost at 12,000 yards total, which Shady is at 15. So he's not a big receiving threat, obviously, but when it's all said and done, I don't know how many more years he has. I won't count him out, and I'll say that he's probably got another 3 years left in him. And if he continues at the rate that he's going, and I like the way Baltimore's using him, they're not overutilizing him. If he keeps up going on at the trajectory that he's going right now, man, he'll probably end up with 13,000 yards. And I'm pretty sure 13,000 rush yards will put you in that rarefied air with some of the best rushers in NFL history. I don't know where, the Walter Paytons and the of the world, and I think those guys are somewhere in that 13,000, yard range. That'd be my guess, right? Nah, he was at 16 because Emmett had to pass him. That's a bad one to use because he was the NFL all-time leading rusher, and then Emmett passed him. Let's go, and then Barry had to be at like 15 because Barry retired before he was going to pass him. So now I'm going down a rabbit hole. Y'all bear with me. Y'all know I do this shit sometimes. Y'all just bear with me. 15,000 for Barry. That might be the number. 15K might be the number. Who else is on? Marshall Faulk. And he's not a good one because he had receiving numbers too. So he's not a good comp here. He had 12,000 rushing yards. But he probably had another 8,000 receiving yards, though. 6,875 receiving yards on top of 12,200. So he had 19,000 career all-purpose yards. And he was a return man early in his career. But it ain't a lot here. It ain't enough here to bring it up. So, I mean, that's he's not a good one, but that's another Hall of Famer. Let's go to Terrell Davis. I shouldn't do this because Terrell didn't play long enough. And I hate that he's in the Hall of Fame. I do. I'm sorry. The man got 7,607 yards. This man should not be in the Hall of Fame. I don't give a ham sandwich. And he's got 1,280 yards rushing or receiving. This man does not even have 10,000 all-purpose yards in his career. And I get injuries, ended the back end of his career in the first 4 years were crazy, including a 2,000-yard season in 98. I don't give a shit. Sorry, not sorry. Like, he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, but whatever. Let's see. Let me get one more back. That Curtis Martin just went. Boy, he had a lot of yards. That's another one where I'm like, that's probably not a good one. Curtis got in not too long ago. I think he might have been the last. 14,101 yards, 90 rushing touchdowns. I think Derek can get close to Curtis. He's already got more rushing touchdowns. And I think that's what's going to also push Derek up is the amount of touchdowns that he has. I don't think he'll get to 14,000, but anything's possible. You know, if he could play another 3 or 4 years, he can get there, but kind of asking for a lot to play 4 more. I could see him playing this year, the rest of this year, and then 2 more years after this year. I could see that happening. 3 more years after this year, though, I think that's kind of pushing it, but you just never know. You know, I think he signed a 2-year deal with Baltimore. I can see him. He's playing out the 2 years in Baltimore. And then could he get one more contract from someone, you know, a 2-year deal with an out after one, or just a 1-year deal with somebody? I could see that too. And then his career would be over at that point. I don't know if that gets you to 14,000, but if Curtis Martin got in with 14,101 yards and 90 touchdowns, Derrick Henry's definitely getting in because he's trending in that direction. Anyway. Edge, that's a good one. Let's look at Edge. I think that's really comparable too. Edge was a much better receiver though. Edge was a hell of a receiver. So Edge had 12,246 yards, and 80 touchdowns on the ground. And then Edge had another 3,364 yards receiving and another 11 touchdowns. So he had 91 total touchdowns and about 15,600 yards. So 15,600 on the career yards, all purpose, and 91 touchdowns. That's a good one. And he'll get to 12,000 yards in his career rushing. And he'll probably get to 2,000 yards receiving in his career when it's all said and done. So he'll be somewhere in that 15,000 yard all-purpose range. And he'll finish his career with probably 130 some odd touchdowns. I never checked to see how many receiving touchdowns that Derrick Henry had. I never checked to see how many receiving touchdowns he's had in his career. Because he had one tonight, as a matter of fact. So we know about the 98. He's got 4 receiving touchdowns in his career. So he's already over 100 total touchdowns in his career. And he'll probably add another 2 or 3 receiving touchdowns, you know, in his career. But yeah, he's to me, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. First ballot, I think. All right. So we'll take this last comment right here and we'll get out of here. I went down the rabbit hole. Y'all know how I operate sometimes. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, my guy. Big Money Sonny. Right. Now, Lou, let's keep that manager energy up. We up top. You know, I ain't going nowhere, man. Look, at the end of the day, I don't know how this season's going to turn out, but I'm going to enjoy it, whatever it happens. I know we only a half game up on the Eagles. This is a big week because I really do think they can lose this week. They win this week, and this shit's going to get real interesting because we could lose this week. We play the Bears, right? And we don't know. I would be 1,000% confident we were beating the Bears if we had Jaden Daniels healthy. But with his status up in the air, there's no telling what's going to happen if Marcus Mariota starts the game, right, and has to play. But I still feel confident we can beat them. But I'm not going to sit here and act like I love our defense and I know we're going to shut them down defensively because that's not true. So I would love to have Jaden available, but we can got this week coming up because of our, situation with our quarterback. But I'm not willing to risk his long-term, health this season for one game. We got a lot of games to go, and I feel good about our situation, but we'll see what happens. I think we could win, and the Eagles could lose, and create a little bit of distance. But we'll see. I mean, let me look at the Eagles' schedule real quick, because I really feel like they got, I think this was the little window, and then they got a chance to get hot because I don't think they play, a bunch of teams that necessarily move the needle. So, it'll be interesting to see what their schedule looks like. So let me check. All right. So Eagles I know they got the Bengals this week coming up. Bengals, then the Jags, they should win that game. Then the Cowboys, then the Rams. So it's not as easy as I thought. So they have the Bengals, the Jags, which they should win that game. Cowboys, never know what's going to happen there. I expect them to beat Dallas. Dallas is not good, but you just never know, right? It's family business. Then they have us. Quick turnaround. Then they got the Rams. Then they got the Ravens. I mean, really, their schedule isn't as easy as I thought when I look at it. It's a couple of games in here that they should be able to take care of. But I'm hoping by the time they get the Rams, they should have Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp back. You just need them to stay healthy. If they got both of those dudes, they'll have a shot in that game on Sunday Night Football later on in the season. Cooper Kupp is supposed to play this week against the Vikings on Thursday Night Football. Matter of fact, he's supposed to be all systems go. Hopefully he stays healthy. They should have Puka Nacua back by then too. So we win in this division, man. As long as we take care of business in the division, we win in this division, man. I thought their schedule was a lot easier, but now that I'm looking at it, it's not impossible. It's a doable schedule, but it's not as easy as I thought it was. I thought it was a lot easier. You see Jacksonville and you see the Panthers on it because, we already played the Panthers. The good thing is they already played Tampa, right? Because Tampa's going to be worse, as the season progresses, you would think. Conversely, we played the Saints and, Saints probably will be super trash by the time we get to them. So it's shaping up for us to take care of business. We just got to take care of business inside the division. I'm keeping that, I'm keeping that energy, man. I'm getting under their skin and I'm loving every second of it. I told them, don't let us get good. I told them, I warned them. It's not like I did not warn them about what was going to happen if we got good. This isn't a surprise. It should not be a shock to anybody. I said, don't let us get good because I'm going to be unbearable. They must have thought I was kidding. They ain't never seen nobody like me before. And they'll never see another person like me again. And they're going to hate me because we ain't going nowhere. They're going to hate us. I'm willing to be the villain. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Monday Night Football Overtime. Big win for the Bucs, for the Ravens. They go to 5-2 on the season, their 5th consecutive victory in a row, and they've been scoring some points, man. I just bragged about the Commanders taking the lead in the offensive points per game ranking and the most points scored in the league this year on average. And then the Ravens, we score 40 and the Ravens top us and score 41 and retake the lead. And so now they're the highest scoring offense in the league. Yet again, they've been on this torrid pace here of late. And they've just been on a tear. 41 this week, 30 last week. The week before that, 41. I think they had a big game the week before that, the 35-pointer against Buffalo the week before that. So they've just been scoring and lighting the scoreboard up, and they do it again tonight on the road against a quality Buccaneers team. Beat them up in the process, left the Bucs with more questions than answers after this game, and they're now 5-2. I mean, in the Bucs, despite being competitive early and then kind of falling off of a cliff from a competitive standpoint, they're 4-3. For as bad as it feels, they're 4-3. The injuries are a concern, and how do you move forward? You're going to have to look. You may have to go out and trade for someone if you want to keep this season alive. Mike Williams might be a guy you got to go out and trade for, right? You may have to scour free agency in the streets and see if there's any receivers that can come in and help. But really, you're gonna have to go after one of these dudes via trade, whether it's a Mike Williams or a DeAndre Hopkins, someone like that. You're gonna have to do something if you want to salvage this season. Because Mike Evans is coming back. So if you could just get him someone on the other side, you can survive. Deontay Johnson is another name. It's in the division. I know, and I don't know if Carolina's going to be willing to give him to you, but he'd be the perfect, because you need somebody that can work the slot, because that's what Godwin did for you. And Deontay Johnson can do that. He can play inside or outside. But that's another name to watch. If I'm Tampa Bay, this game changed how I was approaching the trade deadline. You may have to do something. You may have to do something. If you really are serious, your division is up for grabs. You can win this division. You can't just throw in the towel because of what happened tonight with Evans and Godwin. Evans will be back in 2 to 4 weeks. My guess is after the bye, Mike Evans will be back. You need to acquire a receiver. There are options available. Plenty of options. And it won't cost you a ton. It'll cost you. How bad you want it? How bad you want it? That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Monday Night Football Overtime. I want to give a quick shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this stream. Again, if you aren't betting with BetUS, head over to betus.com, use the promo code YouTube150, get you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit of up to $2,000 and 125% on your next 2 deposits of up to $2,000 when you use the promo code YouTube150. You guys get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your night. God damn it, Chargers. You make me sick. I'm so over them. I'm going to stop betting with teams who can't score points. Sick of this shit. See you guys next time. God bless. Good night.
Louie